What's happening, sports fans? Today we're going to be recapping an American sports drama, The Way Back. Spoilers ahead. What would you do if you lost your 10-year-old son to diseases, and soon after your wife leaves you? Well, Jack Cunningham decides that the best thing to do is drink his sadness away, so he becomes an alcoholic, but there may be redemption for him. Let's begin. We're watching from afar as a group of construction workers shoots the bull at the end of a hard day. It's a chilly and dismal November evening, and the guys are dressed in flannel jackets, hooded sweatshirts, construction gloves, and knit hats. We can't understand what they're saying, but they all burst out laughing at a joke. Jack Cunningham, mid-30s, in a thick black and red plaid jacket, says farewell to the others and crosses to a gold Chevy Blazer in the temporary parking lot. He gets inside the car and starts it. 97.5 pops up on the radio, the aging engine shudders and whines to life, and he turns up the heat to max. He smiles and reaches into the back seat to get a drink from the floor. He slips the lid on and raises it onto his lap. Coors Light cans can be found everywhere. He takes one of the ice cubes and pours it into a solo cup, replaces the cooler, and drives away. So now shopping around, he adds a few cheap wine bottles to his basket along with the 12-pack, nearly at the register when he takes a detour and grabs a bottle of Seagram's gin from the shelf. And now he makes his way to his mother's residence. He goes towards what looks like to be the backyard and greets some people sitting at a table.
Hey!
His mother, his sister, her 2 kids, and her husband are seated. And he greets everybody for a happy Thanksgiving. And then he goes around the table greeting everyone individually. Ah, sweet Jack. The family chatters over Thanksgiving. Now Jack's telling his sister's daughter, Sarah, about something that happened when he and Sarah's mom were little. Sarah slips off and Jack goes to talk to his sister, Beth. Well, they're talking and things are pretty smooth until Beth brings up Jack's ex-wife. Well, he gets furious and thrashes around before going to his bedroom. In there, he tries to call his ex-wife, Angela, but it goes to voicemail, so he leaves a message.
You can call me.
Now, after a hard day, Jack heads home, and when he finds that light on the answering machine glowing, he pulls out a can, opens it, and presses the button. He listens to several voicemails before coming across one that grabs his attention. It's from Father Tierney, his high school principal. So the father ends up leaving a number to call, to which Jack jots down. Before we go on, like the video, smash the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to get that full day of good luck. And now he's driving to his old high school, where he meets Mrs. Crawford, the longtime rectory assistant, who's well in her 70s, and opens the gate for him and directs him to Father Tierney's office. So the father enters and he greets Jack and they engage in a little small talk before Tierney drops the bombshell. He wants Jack to replace their old basketball coach, who's been advised to quit coaching after he suffered a heart attack.
Oh no.
Jack has a hard time comprehending this news, and when he gets home, he contemplates accepting the offer. So he returns to his former high school, Bishop Hayes High. He goes into the gym. The male basketball team is having practice. Jack watches for a while before he's met by the assistant coach, Dan Espinosa, a good, mild-mannered high school math teacher. And Dan introduces the team to Jack. There are only 10 boys on this team, and Espinosa explains that enrollment has been down since Jack left, and the diocese is considering closing the school and selling the land off. He begins by introducing Brandon Durrett. Espinosa describes Durrett as an amazing player, the best on the team, but very shy. I've been coaching him for 3 years and can't count on one hand the number of times our dialogue went beyond yes coach or no coach, Espinosa says. Then there's Ronald Chubbs Hendricks, black and proud. Then there's Kenny Dawes, who puts up some decent three-pointer shots and has a good long-range stroke, but can be a bit of a showboater at times. Sam Garcia is the team's committed and disciplined senior captain. He's also the least gifted player, but he's the most hardworking. He starts alongside Brandon in the backcourt. He's not much of a scorer, but he's a good defender. And then he introduces Marcus Parrish, the center. And Jack asks about Bobby Breeze, which Espinosa introduces as the team's 6th man and the strong safety for the school's football team. So Jack tells him to blow the whistle, and the team assembles around him, getting introduced to their new head coach. The boys size Jack up. Then he heads over to Marcus and tells him he's the tallest player on the team and shouldn't be shooting threes. Well, Marcus is quick to tell him that he got the most threes on the team last year. But Jack brings him down to earth when he tells Espinosa to recap Marcus's stats from last year. The percentage is terrible, 26% from threes.
26%, Marcus.
Jack tells him he's being left open because he can't hit the ocean from the beach. So he tells him to resume training and he dishes out some orders. Now after completing training, Espinosa shows Jack around. Jack then asks him why he didn't just take the job, and Espinosa promptly replies that he has to take care of his mother, who's critically ill. Well, Jack says sorry, and before Espinosa leaves, he tells him how to dress as a head coach. So Jack prepares for the team's next game as he dusts his old coat. He goes to see the team before the game begins. Espinosa spots him and introduces him to Father Nick Whelan, the team's chaplain. The boys begin to dance to get psyched up, but it's all for nothing as the team is beaten 67-31 by Dougherty. So now Jack's seen at the bar talking to the bartender and a man referred to as Doc. He ends up ordering more drinks and is carried home by Doc and another concerned friend of Jack's.
All right, good night, Doc.
Good night.
After another loss, he heads home one time after the game, and while listening to his voicemail, he discovers that Angela left him a message, and she's telling him she'd be in the area soon and would like to see him. So he's ecstatic and they end up meeting at a decent restaurant in town, but she arrives late. And she starts by admiring his new job as a basketball coach. They engage in some small talk and she expresses her concern for Jack. She also tells him she's found a new lover, Nick, and she says she wanted to tell him before he found out from any of their friends. So now Jack's distraught, and she invites him to go to a birthday party together and leaves. And Jack remains stuck to his seat at the restaurant. Now up next, we see Jack back at a bar with some old friends. They reminisce about old times over beer, and Doc is worried about Jack. So he helps him yet again leave the bar.
Where are you taking my friend? Where are you taking my friend?
Now Jack's at high school, and the team's headed for a game. They arrive at the home school and are doing some pre-game warm-ups. The crowd's pumped and the players are excited. The home school's a bit abrasive as the players and head coach of that school take shots at Jack and his players. And Jack's introduced to the head coach of that school by Espinosa. They engage in some small talk before they part ways. Now, the game's about to begin. So the team is doing their usual pre-game psyching up dance. But Jack's displeased and tells them no more dancing until they can get their record up. The crowd's pumped, and the home school begins to pound Bishop Hayes high. One dunk after another. The team's getting destroyed in the game, and Jack calls a timeout. They kind of look to be down and out already, and as the team heads back to the bench, the coach makes every member of the team stand. He's screaming at them to do better, and the boys are getting pumped. The boys return to the court, and immediately they're blocked during the next play. They react with a flagrant foul and lose 72-38. Now, as they're heading home, the team chaplain has a talk with Jack on his language. He tells him not to underestimate his impact that he has on the boys. So they reach the school and Espinosa confronts Jack about some beer cans he found in his office. Jack's indignant and he says it won't happen again, and the two of them go their separate ways. So Jack's back at the bar and he looks at it from the inside of his car, contemplating on whether to head inside or not. This time he decides to leave. He's gonna skip the beer today. So the next morning, Jack's at Bishop Hayes, and he plans to change the team's playing style. As he attempts to score points through the defense, he shows him a diamond formation when Marcus strolls in with a headset on. Well, Jack tells Marcus that he'll have to sit the next game for coming in late. Well, he thinks the coach is joking and starts laughing, causing Jack to change his mind and tell Marcus he's off the team. Marcus looks at Espinosa for support, but Espinosa's supporting Jack's decision, so Marcus leaves pissed off.
Stupid, man. It's dumbass shit.
Now the boys are playing their next game, and Jack's angry with one of the referee's calls. The team's doing okay this time as they're only down by 1 point. Jack calls a timeout and creates a play for the team with possession, and 15 seconds left on the clock. The boys, eager to record a second win, listen with rapt attention, execute the play to perfection, leaving Dawes for an open wing three, which he sinks. All net. Bishop Hayes wins the game 57-55. The boys are ecstatic, and you know what? So are we. Now heading home from the game, Jack picks up one of the boys. It's Durrett, as he's walking home from school. He opens up to Jack about things happening at home. And Jack tries to motivate him on being more of a presence on the team. He wants him to take a firm stance as the star player of the team.
Yes or no?
And he ends up dropping Durrett at his house. The next day, Jack meets up with the team and shakes things up at practice, but at a price. Now Marcus arrives at Jack's house and tries to get his spot back on the team, but Jack's refusing. He tries to get through to him again, but this time he tells the truth. Oh, he misses the game, and it's killing him to return. So he apologizes and promises to be better behaved. So Jack gives him a second chance. Now Marcus is ecstatic.
I'm sorry about cursing, Coach.
So we see practice the next day, Jack reporting that Marcus will be returning to the team, and he also assigns Brandon Durrett as captain of the team. Now things are turning around for Jack Cunningham and Bishop Hayes High. The team heads out for their next away game. They win again by 3 points. The boys are excited and enthusiastic, and so is Jack. Training gets more intense. They win the next game by 6 points, the next by 11. The team is starting to heat up, and Jack Cunningham is lighting that fire. After a couple of games, Marcus begins getting some game time. Jack gives him instructions. He's eager to please, so he listens and executes. And Jack finds himself creating plays at work and at home. The visits to the bar are few and far between, and the team is leaving destruction in their wake. They have won more than 7 straight games now. So Jack's chilling on the docks, and he's joined by Angela. They both head out for that birthday party.
Ready?
And Jack has small talk with the parents of the celebrant. Now we see Angela and Jack at the headstone of their son. They both mourn. Looks like this day seems to be his remembrance. So they talk a little on the way home, mostly about their dead son. So now Jack's mother, his sister, and her family come to visit him. Jack's nephew adores him, especially for the job he's doing at Bishop Hayes. He's a big fan. So now Bishop Hayes has to win the next game for a chance at the playoffs, and Jack's sister and her family are in attendance. As of now, they're losing by 8. So they improve their play and are down by 1. They make a basket, but it's ruled out as an offensive foul. An already nervous Jack loses his cool and is ejected from the game, and the team end up losing by 3 points. So Jack's driving Durrett home, and he's apologizing for losing his head at the game.
Sorry for losing my temper tonight.
And Jack opens up to him about his childhood and some of his life choices. So the next day, Jack meets Durrett's father, telling him about the attention Brandon has been getting. But Brandon's father's not ecstatic. He explains his misfortune with basketball and why he doesn't support Brandon in basketball. So now we're at the final game of the regular season. Playoffs are on the line. Everyone is nervous. It's the team's biggest game of the season, and the crowd is there to affirm this. Jack tells the team they're on a diamond press right from the beginning. He psychs the boys up getting ready for the game, and it begins. Things start rough for Bishop Hayes. They get pummeled, and Jack calls a timeout to change it. Now things immediately start looking better for Bishop. They might have a chance to change this up. They progress slowly and are down by 15 with 5 minutes on the clock. The other team's coach calls a timeout, and Jack pumps the boys up even more. It's 2 minutes to the end of the game, and Hayes is down by 6. They've cut it close, leaving it all on the court. Seconds left on the clock, and they're down by just 2. Jack calls timeout. He calls a play for Dawes, but he tells Brandon to take the shot. Things are looking up for Bishop Hayes. Everything is in slow motion, and the crowd noise has drowned to silence. This is it. You can cut the tension on the court with a knife. Durrett dribbles the ball up the court. There's a crossover. He runs the clock down, takes the shot, and scores a 3. Bishop Hayes is in the playoffs. Brandon Durrett brings it in. Crowd goes wild. Durrett's in the air. Whew. Next morning, Jack's woken up by Angela's call.
What?
The person whose birthday it was that they both attended had been hospitalized. He had a fever in school and had been sedated. They're still at the hospital when the boy is confirmed dead, and an angry Jack flees to the hospital. And now he's back at the bar, Doc taking him home. Next morning, he wakes up late and hurries to his car. Jack's late for practice. He says sorry and blames his tardiness on the power outage. So he starts drinking again while at the gym. Now visited by Father Tierney and Espinosa, they've come to inform him that he's being sacked for bringing alcohol to practice and coming in drunk. He gets all defensive and appeals to the father to keep his job, but he refuses. He continues to plead, but it's fallen on deaf ears.
I'm sorry. Please don't do it. Do this.
He fiddles with some keys, loses his temper, and bounces. Now he's drinking at the bar once again, egged on by a mysterious blonde in the corner of the bar who claims to know him. The bartender thinks it's Diane Pearson from St. Dorothy's, a high school crush. They leave the bar in Jack's car, and they're kissing when they hit Diane's neighbor's car. They both flee the scene to meet at Diane's house, but A drunk Jack enters the wrong house
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go home.
and gets in a scuffle with the residents of that house. He's fallen from a flight of stairs and is unconscious by the road. So now the next day he wakes up to his sister Beth. She talks about last night's incident, and Jack tells her he remembers. Well, she says he's going to kill himself if he continues like this. So Jack goes through therapy to help him heal from his son's death. Now Angela comes to visit during a therapy session, and he hugs her. They talk a bit, and Jack confesses that he should have come for therapy a long time ago, and he apologizes deeply to Angela. So a few days pass, and Jack is back from therapy. He's greeted by his sister and her family. Meanwhile, the boys are headed off for the playoffs. Jack calls Espinosa as the boys are on their way. First game's about to start. Now at the game, Durrett leads the team out. His father and siblings are in the stands. Durrett fires on all cylinders. Over the radio, commentators announce that the boys from Bishop Hayes dominate the game, and they give credit to Jack, who's playing alone on a basketball court. I don't know, this movie's set to be a classic, I think. Ben Affleck playing Jack couldn't have been better. The sports part of the story, beautiful to watch. Yeah, the whole coach coming in to change a team and make everybody feel better feels overused, but it takes nothing from this story. So, this was our review for The Way Back, produced by Warner Brothers and directed by Gavin O'Connor. Based on the script The Has-Been by Brad Inglesby. Starred Ben Affleck as Jack Cunningham and Janina Gavankar as Angela.